Hello, hello. How is everybody today? I am excited to be here to talk a little bit about habits and changing habits. I do a lot of work around creating joy and finding more fulfillment. And when we want to experience more joy or create more fulfillment and more engagement in our lives, we do have to change some habits. So there's a lot of habit change that goes into that. And I was skiing with my son. Some of you may have seen the pictures. We went skiing on Saturday, and it was so much fun. And so we were skiing, and at one point we were sitting on the chairlift, and he looked at me and he said, "Mom, why aren't you wearing a helmet?" And when we had gotten to the ski slopes and we had gotten our equipment and stuff, they said, "Do you want a helmet? Do you want a helmet?" And I said, "Of course I want a helmet for Michael," but it never even occurred to me to get a helmet for myself. So when he asked me that question, I was just like, why don't I wear a helmet? And I guess the answer really is something like because it wasn't what we did like in the 80s and 90s, right? Like that wasn't that common to wear a helmet. But I hadn't even challenged that habit of not wearing a helmet. And so when he looked at me and he asked that question, it just brought that into my awareness, and it brought it into just like, well, of course I could wear a helmet. And really, it does make sense to wear a helmet, but I had to go back to think about why I have this old habit that I have. And so when he asked me that question, it made me think about the work that we do on habit change, because oftentimes when we decide we're going to start something new, we spend a lot of time focusing on the new way, how I'm going to implement the new way. We make a plan, we start, we make a commitment, we set goals around the new way. So what that's going to look like. But what many of us forget to do is to spend a little bit of time thinking about the current way. So why do I do the thing that I do now? So I've made some decisions that I want to change something, but we're focusing on that change looking forward. And I do think it's important to look at the change moving forward. What is it going to look like? How are you going to implement it? What resources and tools are you going to need? How are we going to make it desirable? And I'll talk some more about creating change in another video, because I do think that part's really important. But many of us already focus on that part. But then we forget to look at what we're leaving behind when we decide to make a change. And the truth is, the way we do something now, it does serve us. It's comfortable for our brain. It's a familiar pattern. It's a familiar go-to of behavior. And the brain loves to do things that take less energy. So doing something the way we've always done it will always take less energy. Of course, my phone is ringing right now. Always good things to learn and pay attention to. So our brain is always going to kind of default to the current way. It likes the current way. The current way is comfortable. And it's important to look at that current way and say, what is this? How is this serving me now? Why do I do it this way? Because what we need to acknowledge when we're trying to change a habit is that it's going to be hard to lose the comfort and lose the value that the current way provides us, even if we know the current way isn't the best thing for us. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So I do a lot of work on, finding more happiness, finding more joy. And so for a lot of people, one of the things that we work on is creating a space in the morning to spend a little bit of time setting intentions and tuning in with our thinking, and really, being mindful about how we want to go about our day. So in order to do that, that's the new habit, is getting up, doing the intention. But we have to pay attention to the habit that we're leaving behind, which for some people means hitting the snooze button a variety of times. For some people, it means giving up 20 minutes of sleep. And so looking at how, what we're leaving behind in that space, because some people will say like, oh, I hit the snooze button and I don't want to hit the snooze button anymore, I just want to get up, and so I'm just going to get up, and when it goes off, I'm just going to jump up, and I'm going to have everything ready. But then when that snooze button, when the alarm goes off and that snooze button is there, we're still like have a strong tendency to hit it because there's a lot of value in that for us. We get the relief of hitting the snooze button. Our brain sees that as a few more minutes of rest. So in the instant where we have to make that decision between the old way and the new way, our brain is going to favor the old way because it sees it as a relief. Now, the key is, once we develop that awareness and we see why we're favoring the old way, it's much easier to shift it, because you can say, oh yeah, I get that. I expected that to happen. I knew it was going to go off and I was going to want that relief of hitting the snooze button, and I'm still deciding to get up. And so it can be harder to change a habit when we don't acknowledge what we're ending. So we often, again, we focus on what we're going to start, but we also need to pay a little bit of attention to what we are stopping, because what we are stopping is going to be pulling for our energy. It's going to be asking for our attention. It's going to be there, like waving, like, hey, remember me? Let's do it that way, because that way was easy and that's the way I already know. And so I'll give you another example. One of the things that I frequently work on with people is being a bit more tuned in, or a little bit more mindful of our thoughts and our focus. And so one of the ways we work on that is with mindful nutrition. And if you haven't done it yet, I do have a post with a free guide to mindful nutrition, if that's something that's interesting to you. So go get that at Laura Buckley Coaching, right on the business page. And so for many people, they say, okay, at lunch, I'm going to take away all of my distractions and I'm going to just sit down and just focus on my meal. So during lunch, I'm going to take away the distractions, I'm going to be present, and I'm going to make that a mindful meal. So that's the plan. That's the new way. But we also have to look at the old way of, what do I currently do? So I currently work during lunch. I use that time to get ahead of my emails, or to, return phone calls, or whatever it is that maybe you use it to do, continuing education, or you watch webinars, or whatever you choose to do during that time. And so we have to look at that time that we would be then giving up to work so that we can focus on that mindful meal. We have to say, okay, brain, I know that the worries are going to come up that we're going to get behind, or we won't have enough time in the day to get all of our work done, or if we don't. Or sometimes it's just the comfort of being distracted during our meals. Sometimes we find it awkward or uncomfortable to sit and not be doing anything when we eat. So knowing that your work or your email is going to be calling your attention, that you might have those thoughts that you won't be able to get things done if you put those things aside while you're eating, or just that discomfort of not doing anything, not having a distraction during your meals, so that you can be present and focused. So what I would say to you is, if you have a habit that you're trying to create, if it's, if you're trying to get up early to exercise, or if you're working on changing your meals, or if you're trying to add in meditation or a morning routine, while you focus on what the new way is going to look like, I also want you to spend a little bit of time recognizing what the current way looks like and what you might be having to let go of in order to create the new way. That acknowledgement, that awareness is going to be a good tool for you to help change a new habit. Otherwise, that old way is going to be like, hey, I still want your attention. I still want you to do it my way. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. If there's a habit that you're working on and you want to share in the comments, a little bit of a reflection, I'd love that. And otherwise, I will talk to you again soon. Bye.